Okay, I'm back, and I'm gonna try to chill out a little bit this time because I'm basically dealing with a problem that's not going to go away. Probably not even under the jurisdiction of the United States of America. One thing I want to start off with today, and I do often have these monologues on a. They're called vlogs, but I'm gonna call it a monovlog. It's a monovlog. And a vlog is a video blog, and this is a mono vlog, meaning one that's coming from me. And I've got my coffee, so I'm going to drink that. And I actually have absolutely nothing to do right now except let my iPhone restore through iTunes, the actual provider of Apple software. Apple uses iTunes, it doesn't use Intunes or Windows Media Player. So I'm just going to take my time. I may be getting up and then coming back. I've got my two books here, which we can call props, but they're really not because they're books I've read or am reading again. So you've got The Sheltering Sky, which, as some of you may or may not know, is the book that I'm using along with certain songs and also just the legacy of other people who I feel have significantly impacted culture and society through their work. Um, Certain photographers, writers, stuff like that, and people, just people in general, people I know in general. Someone who may just live down the street from me, whose name I'm not going to mention because I like to make that there's like a barrier I think between being a public figure and being a private person. But at this point, even to be a public figure, one still deserves to have a private life. So I don't want to get too far into making that distinction. And not only that, but there's something I want to talk about right now that a lot of people, I guess, who would watch me really resent. And that is, why does Sherry have, in fact, hold on, I'm getting my shoes, like Mr. Rogers. Um, why does Sherry, they say, Sherry, why do you have friends who are wealthy and you're not wealthy and you're suffering? And I don't say this to them, but I'm going to say it right now here. And I just put my shoes on. Because I don't resent their money. Um, because uh, because they earned it. The ones that I'm talking about have earned their money, and and I've earned the money that I have, and that money, there's a distinction between the money that you have, that you've obtained legally or earned legally, and money that people steal. That's a distinction. I'm back. I had to get up and I had to get up and leave the room for a second. Um, okay, so anyway, back to what I was saying. Um, So I've covered that money issue and the fact that they used to call it the gentrified poor. But I don't really care. It's just people who, I guess I didn't grow up poor, and poor wasn't really a stigma when I was a kid because, in at least from my generation forward, people who didn't have money still had access to clothing and items at a discounted price from what they were, I guess, maybe in the 50s or something, because they could go to a place like Walmart or somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know which stores are considered to be, bargain type stores, because some are starting to actually cross over. Um, you know, um, but kids, I guess, when I grew up, didn't look any different, no matter what their financial standing was. At least they didn't look so drastically different that being poor was a stigma. So I live a rich life, even though as a human rights activist, and I mean very actively, I don't have the best conditions here. But actually, most human rights activists who are quote unquote in the field don't have an extremely glamorous situation. Why is that? Because they're in the field. So they say, Sherry, is being in Greenwood in the field? And I say, yes, it is. And they say, Sherry, why is that? And I say, because, well, I'm not sure I am in Greenwood. Because last night when I looked at the map, the street down the block, the houses down the street this way, going that way to the left of this house, and we're in Center Town or something. Like I didn't even say Greenwood. It was like, and then I live next to what was a reserve that a military installation had been changed into a reserve, which makes sense because we're on historic land. Historic land cannot be taken off the historic registry. So it was put into a reserve. And then of course, after I personally had found on the map that this state, along with at least I think 10 other states now, including the one I think of the most is Indiana. And I think of the guy out there, who's also experiencing a lot of um, animosity from people who don't want to do technology the correct way. And I think of the guy out there who's eating from 7-Eleven. No, I'm just kidding. He's not eating from 7-Eleven. He may be actually, but he's a friend of mine. And I think, as anyone who really, works in technology on a really just like, I'm just going to use that word bare metal. And when I say bare metal, I mean crispy, crispy bare metal. I mean those, like driving a locomotive train, at 150 miles an hour down the freeway or the interstate, and just having it skid and spark bare metal on concrete, and this is that aluminum foil I used as a filter with a lot of my images right now because it's so crispy hot. It's a cold freeze. It's a hot cold freeze. So I think of that guy Iron Geek, who's out there doing a lot of stuff that I do, but he's not as afraid to do the penetration testing. Well, when I say afraid, he probably doesn't associate penetration testing with fear. And I don't really, but when you get into the penetration testing, you see a lot of gross stuff. It's just gross. Now, I do a form of this type of testing. And so one thing I've been researching this morning as I'm on a bare metal Sunday is what I call the pervert phone. And the reason I call it the pervert phone is because that's exactly what it is. I believe this set of phones was stolen from a professor at Princeton several years ago, and they just sort of circulate around the globe. And I got the int box, or the MXS Plus showing up on my network this morning after I got my computer, after I was able to take my computer off the network. So I did, as I always do. I'm like, okay, well, what the heck? What the heck is this phone showing up? This MXS Plus. What the heck is it showing up? And it says Inbox G. So I Google Inbox G, and I get Inbox by Google, which it says it's developed by Google when the programming language is Java, which is probably bullshit. Trying to think what language you'd use to program a. You don't have to program. Wait, you just said. Okay, never mind. It doesn't even make enough sense for me to pursue. So then I okay, that's distracting me because it just makes you don't need to use a programming language to develop an inbox. That's kind of like developing the battery powered electrical wall socket. So then I Google intbox, and not surprising to me, a little like I said, this why I call it the pervert phone. And this is just, I mean, I really hit pay dirt with this one. And I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly because it's Vietnamese, and I tend to pronounce, I tend to not be able to pronounce Vietnamese because the language, an Asian language that I studied, Mandarin, is not Vietnamese. So I'm going to try to say it in English, in the Romanized Vietnamese. Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. So from Intbox, I get to on the map, Google Map, Ho Chi Minh, and there was a Ho Chi Minh Trail when I was at the University of Colorado at Boulder. But this one, Int Packaging Company, has a little children's. It's not a children's studio; it's a children's waiting room with a Christmas tree, and they're selling. It's just called Intbox, and it's just a children's Merry Christmas lime green waiting room with very interesting photographs that are sort of stepped up, and a big Christmas tree with what looks like a big gold worm in it, and it says welcome. And I don't know why someone would want to use a phone that says int, or wait, is it the phone? Okay, no, the phone. Okay, the phone is, and I already know this, I'm actually just being really dramatic. The phone is MXS Plus. The manufacturer is Intbox, and that's where you get to the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam. And then the Inbox G is the Google or the Gmail inbox, which someone took the time to program with Java, and I'm not sure why, because there's no need to program to use it. Just, I can't even explain how little sense it makes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first I'm going to get that MAC address, which I don't think has been spoofed. And I'm going to Google that MAC address and find out. This is a process I go through all the time, so I'm not going to say too much about how I do it because I have my own way of hacking, and I call it passive hacking. And that means in order for me to initiate that chain of that hack chain, it has to land in my little data lake, which is more like a swamp getting ready to turn over if that ever happens. Okay, so this is a little bit different. Yeah, Princeton. Okay, so I Googled the MAC address, and it's I come up with several things here about the security partial trust allow list, Samsung electronics company Mac vendor list, udger.com, which I saw last night. I can't remember exactly where. And then it's also got detailed analysis, mal, fake, AV, BW virus spyware in Sophos. Sophos is one of the most stringent companies out there for antivirus. But then we have the original hack where these Macs were stolen at Princeton, netprinceton.edu, hostmaster, and they were stolen back in January 15th, or they were reported stolen back in January 15th, 2007. And it says WAP reattached to residential space covered by OIT wireless services. And it's got a list. And I think I've got the entire list of all the pervert phones somewhere. Can't remember where it is. I mean, I've documented this over and over for 3 years. Networking and monitoring services. Devices blocked from temporary visitor wireless network access. So the blocked, meaning not welcome. And TV, WNA campers. And if you know what a Wi-Fi camp or Wi-Fi, lo-fi, pioneer, offline camper is, it's a camper you don't want. Someone who comes and camps right in your network as they are camping here in my network. And I'm saying, I wish these people were gone. So okay, I'm going to see if now sometimes just mentioning that that's on there, that pervert phone is on there will make it disappear temporarily. So now that my network has no devices on it and my computer isn't out there, available for Priceline or Craigslist or porn or porn that no one's going to touch at this time, because porn really isn't a woman who's 51 years old wearing a white polo shirt, 501 jeans, and a pair of boat shoes. But it still goes through that. It goes through that filter. And then the one that really concerns me here is the green children's room with the Christmas tree and the int box and these stepped up pictures. I love images. And let's see what products they're advertising on int box. We've got the Dove soap. We've got the Bob Op. It's a candy, I guess. It's got a little, not a unicorn, but a leprechaun. Not a leprechaun, a leprechaun. And it just says relax. It's a type of a sucking something. Suck and relax at the children's int box Christmas party in Ho Chi Minh Trail. A suck and relax bob up at the children's int box in Ho Chi Minh Trail. And then, oh, look, these are products that I've bought before. Is that Twinings tea? You got your green tea, you got your red tea, you've got your yellow tea, you've got your orange tea, or the black. That's probably the black tea is typically. And then it looks like almost an Earl Grey tea, and then a Lipton tea, and then it's some tulips that look like they're in a coffin. And tulips in a coffin. That's what I want to give someone. So I'm going to close that down, because now that barrier isn't there, I've lost interest in doing this, in any of this. I see the GS7 int box Android TV box 5.1 quad core. I don't know why a TV the box has the quad core. I personally on my machine have noticed that I'm running an AMD and an Intel processor, which I am not sure why, because I don't have both of those processors in my machine. So as I'm going to show you, or not show you, but I'm losing interest, because as long as I check this folder here, that'll tell me if there's any pervert phones on my computer. Nope, it's clean. Okay, well, then that's done. Got my screenshots, and I am going to call this one Benito.